Good evening and welcome to Laugh Together Well Apart. This is an event we've been really looking forward to, and I have to tell you, I'm so grateful to everyone that came back after we had technical issues. This whole fundraising online thing, it's blowing my mind. It's a much bigger event than I would have thought. However, what I really want to say right now is welcome. We're going to laugh together this evening because there's been a whole lot of stress in our world. And quite frankly, I'm really excited for a break in that. While we're laughing, one of the reasons that we're here tonight is to make sure that we are raising money for the women's shelters in our area. This is a very difficult time for women that are socially isolated with their abusers. Can you just imagine how scary that must be? And we need more money, not less. And this event is actually a replacement for a live event that had to be canceled, as many did. So we're grateful that you're here, and we're grateful that the donations are pouring in. They are pouring in, people. I am so excited to hear how caring our community is. I'm going to get out of the way because, well, you didn't tune in to see me. Although one of these days, maybe, who knows? In the meantime, Laugh Together Well Apart is on, ready to go. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so thrilled to introduce Elvira Kurt.
That's me. I'm actually clapping for myself. In lieu of a comedian, I'm clapping. In lieu of an audience, I'm clapping for myself. Now I just made it even weirder. I want everyone to know that was 6 feet. I waited a full 6 feet for Julie to walk off, and then I gave it an extra 6 feet. Just in case. And I love the rough and tumble nature of this. First of all, I want to acknowledge that this, in a studio, in an abandoned studio, deserted, and everything's done by remote. The cameras are robots, and there's someone probably in their house somewhere putting the whole thing together, and they had technical difficulties. So this whole thing has started by not going online at the time it was meant to. I can't tell you how happy that makes me, because I have been struggling to figure out Facebook Live for a full 7 days, like literally 7 days. I got the camera, and then the lighting is terrible. Or I plug in my headphones, and then I can't move except for the length of the cord, or I unplug it, and it sounds terrible. So the fact that not even like an actual sort of a system in place with people whose only job is to do the technical stuff. The fact that they're having technical difficulties is giving me life right now. It's giving everyone it's not because I'm old. I mean, yes, I'm old, but it's not because I'm old. Unless you're like 15, none of this is natural. It's all bullshit. You know what I mean? It's all nonsensical, and it's designed to make you feel bad about yourself. Like somehow you didn't know how to tell your story, and let alone put some weird filter where I've got rabbit ears or some godforsaken thing. Whatever. I'm delighted that the show started with technical difficulties. Then there's this whole DIY aspect of it, right? I mean, Julie comes out, and the first thing she does, like the first 3 words, she just stumbles a little bit. There's no cutting. We just go. You just go with it. To me, this is like the best of oldie-timey public broadcasting, those PBS stations that I grew up watching when I was a kid. Beamed in from Rochester, New York, and it was fuzzy, and this is exactly what that feels like. And I can't believe I'm having my PBS Rochester moment. Do you remember, and by the way, the reference levels, if they're a little bit higher, like I said, a PBS reference, Rochester, Channel 17, Goldie, if you know what I'm talking about, then this entire performance is dedicated to you. If you don't know, I'm okay with that. I am really okay with young people watching this performance going, I don't understand. Good. The entire world is designed for you. Let us have this one little thing. And then what you can do is make a list. Get a piece of paper right now and make a list of all the things you have to Google after this is done. And the first thing will be PBS stations, Goldie. And then when you see exactly what I'm talking about, if you can find an old clip of Goldie online, because I'm sure they posted them, WNED was the station, and they would, you'd be there watching TV, in the 60s, as I was with my parents on the couch, one on either side, just a little Hungarian immigrants, just filled with disappointment and not knowing that sitting between them is a future lesbian. And we're all just sitting there watching, some classic from the golden age, some black and white film, and we're all engrossed. And it's great because we're not talking, so we're also not, squabbling with each other. There's no bickering. There's just peace. We're just watching Channel 17, a great classic movie, and then suddenly it would just end. And there we are in the studio that looks exactly like this, with little mousy Goldie. She had these weird bangs, and it was just perfect in just how, in her ordinariness. And she'd come on, and she'd like, hi, I know you're enjoying Desk Set with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Oh, they have such great chemistry, and I know that we cut off at a crucial moment. I wonder what's going to happen, but we can't get back to that programming until we've raised a little bit of money. That's the only way we can keep programs like this airing, is if we take a break and have you call in, and if we get 20 calls, we'll start the movie again. And I'm looking at my parents, aren't you guys going to call? And they'll be like, no, we didn't come to this country to pay for TV. And, so we'd have to wait until 20 people somewhere else in the world were calling in to get their tote bag, and then we could go back to the show. So I am having my PBS WNED moment, and now I can scratch it off my bucket list. And then I would disinfect the pen and probably, actually, quite frankly, throw out the bucket, because who knows who's touched it, and it's disgusting. So that brings me to the whole point of us being here and trying to do it like this. I know some of you are thinking, oh my God, I'm sounding like Goldie again. Some of you are thinking that we should get back to the programming, but it's just me. It's just going to be me for a good long time. And some of you are thinking that this is very socially irresponsible of Julie and I to come in this building, doesn't matter what the cause is, we've endangered our lives. No, we are not. This building is in a field, so there is no, we have not touched, we've not been in contact more than 6 feet. Then I told you I gave it that extra 6 feet. The building itself is in a field that is a field away from any other building. They're not even fencing, so it's not like anyone ever put any fencing in that would even contaminate. We are so desolate. No one will find us. This is the perfect place to hide out, is this studio where I'm at. So this building has been empty as well. So not only is it a building in a field surrounded by fields, but the building itself has been empty for 2 weeks, which means that this building has socially isolated more than some cruise ship passengers. You know what I mean? So it is, we didn't touch anything in this building. You open the door with a sensor, you make a move and the lights come on with a motion detector. And I'm actually, you've noticed the cameras switching back and forth. I turn the camera on with an app that allows me to turn on the camera by clenching my butt cheek. And the fact that we're cutting from different angles, that's because of my Kegels. I'm able to, just the jaw strength of those Kegels alone is cutting, making some nice shots with this app. I think it's Twitch. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called Twitch. Is the app that lets your butt cheeks operate a camera. And the Kegels to do some nice, I don't know if it can zoom, but I'll be talking about Zoom in a second. So anyway, the point is, we couldn't be more socially responsible than we have been right now. And then of course when I get home, I'm gonna fully I'm gonna strip down. It's gonna be like Silkwood in my house. I'm gonna walk in and there's gonna be like a Silkwood shower. My partner's gonna greet me with a hose and disinfectant and that we've made ourselves. Because we're not hoarding it, we just found a way to do it with, vodka, I guess. So and peroxide. So I'm just gonna hose down. It's gonna be like a full Silkwood. And again, that's for you younger viewers. You need to write Silkwood down to know what that reference. level is. So, so I think that what I'm trying to say is if you're judging Julie and I for doing this right now, I think that it's important that we keep our judginess where it should be on random groups of people that we see in the park who we somehow believe are not getting the memo. The Prime Minister walks out of his house every morning. The only exercise that poor man is getting to stand in front of a lectern and tell he doesn't want to. You know that he's like he's got his overcoat, but you know he's just in like silk pajamas, a little monogram Justin on the pocket hanky, and he comes out and he's like, I think we need to do better. We need to do better. And he doesn't want us to, he doesn't want to lock the city down. You know, like everyone off to the sides is like, do what your dad did. Do what your dad did. Just watch me this thing. Just watch me this pandemic into the next level. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. So he comes out and he tells us to try harder, and so you know we're doing the best, and there's people who think that every new measure people aren't doing it enough, and I get it. We are socially anxious right now. There's never been a time of more heightened anxiety. I mean, just my hands alone should indicate to you how anxious we are. I move them a lot, but I'm noticing that with this anxiety, I'm probably more handsy, you know, because you know, with the touching that I'm trying not to do. But what I'm saying is, with the judginess that we're experiencing when we look at people and we just presume automatically the worst about these people, that they're not keeping the proper distance apart, right? I mean, that's what, like I said, that's where we should keep our judginess on those people. And then we should maybe check ourselves on that judginess, just do a little check on ourselves. Like, is it right for us to just assume the worst, that those people are flagrantly flaunting? Flaunting is a word that I just invented. Flaunting? See, if there was an actual audience here, I'd be able to check to see if that's the right word, or how accurate I am, or you know, there's always a librarian in every show to point out exactly what the right word should have been. I'm missing that right now. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I'm essentially doing a riff in my closet, basically, is what I'm doing. And so I have no one to like check in with. I can't tell you how unnerving it is. But and I'm trying not to clench my butt because I'm afraid I'll turn the camera off. But what I'm saying is, rather than assume the worst, that people are deliberately not social distancing, why don't we just assume that we don't know what that group of people necessarily is? We don't know how connected they are. I mean, if you were to look at my family unit, I mean, just because you're not seeing like a man, a woman, and a child, then automatically it's like those are groups of strangers congregating. When who knows what that family unit could be. If you looked at me and my family, we would look like a very big gathering, right? It's basically 4 women and 2 kids, you know, because my ex and I are not together, but we co-parent, and then I have my person, and she has her person. That's 4 women right there, 4 grown-ass women right there, and then 2 kids, a surly teenager and an 11-year-old who just wants to be on the Xbox, and we force them outside for some fresh air, and all of a sudden, you know, we could be being judged for this, but in you know, what you're seeing is just like a modern iteration of a family, and that's just what ours looks like. Is that we've got all these women, because lesbians, of course, as we know, we invented conscious uncoupling, and so because we split the time equally between the 2 houses, we've agreed that our bubble can be all of us together. So, but if you were to see us, you would be like, look at those people, they're not known, but we are together, and you can't presume that you know what every family unit is. A large group of people could be something that you are just, that is not familiar to you. Just let's not assume the worst. And I think that's one of the upsides of COVID, is that that you can now look at groups of people a different way. You can look at 2 women together, and you don't have to think, oh, they're sisters. You can think, oh, they're sisters, like that. And you know, with 2 men together with some kids, That never happens. No, of course, it could be gay men. The point is, you can now practice some empathy instead of judging, is what I'm suggesting. Like I said, because the upside of this coronavirus pandemic, the upside of COVID, and it's very hard to find an upside, but here I go, is that now we can all know what it feels like to be a social pariah, because that's the way we're treating each other, essentially. I don't know about you, but if I'm outside getting my constitutional fresh air and I see someone on the sidewalk, it is like I am stepping out, like not even subtly. I'm like stepping out just right away. I'm just like, right, that's a good 6 feet. And I measure it with my hands, and then giving that person some space. Even if I have to step out into, onto the road, no problem, they go by. And then the problem is that sometimes it'll be more people than you have 6 feet of space for, and suddenly I'm like literally in the middle of the street. I'm right in the middle of a big 4-lane street, and somehow that makes sense to me. I've justified it in my brain. I would rather be in the middle of the street facing oncoming vehicular traffic than to the risk of brushing past a complete stranger. So social pariahs is something that we can all relate to. It's not, is it you? Yes, it's you, but it's also me. And that's the beauty of COVID. Thanks, COVID. I think another upside, of course, to this pandemic that we're all experiencing right now is this performance at all. This whole thing is another upside. The fact that we're even doing this show, because as Julie said, this very night was supposed to be a live comedy show up at in Collingwood, which for our people watching all over the world, an hour and a half later than was meant to because of technical difficulties. I just want to point out again that it had nothing to do with me. It wasn't because I didn't hit the right button at home on Facebook. It's because people who work in this industry also can verify how difficult it is to actually make content happen. It's not just magic. So yes, but this show was a live show. This is the best way, still the best way, I will argue, to enjoy life, is not to rely on technical things which can have difficulties. But if this show was booked and you hired a comedian, I would be there. I would be there. I would show up in the flesh and do my little show with my little jokes and have an amazing audience to feed off of. But instead, the pandemic shut the world down, and yet the show has gone on. Another upside, because if this show, as scheduled, like I said, for people tuning in all over the world, it's 2 hours north of Toronto. It was supposed to happen on the Rainbow Ski Weekend. That's when all the gays from all the world descend on Blue Mountain, which is a ski resort in Toronto, Canada, just north of Toronto, Canada, 2 hours north of Toronto, Canada, in a beautiful greater metropolitan Collingwood area. It's essentially, it's Ontario's Whistler. And it was going to be all gays skiing, and then they would finish their ski day and then gather for this amazing show for this fantastic organization, My Friend's House, which is a shelter that serves women and does essential work for survivors of intimate partner violence, and would have raised money. Now, let's face it, to everyone who was originally scheduled for that show would have been canceled. The whole Rainbow Ski Weekend would have been a complete bust. It's like 20 degrees outside Celsius, which in Fahrenheit is 80. It's almost 80. It's in the early 70s. But what I'm saying is, this ski weekend show would never have happened. Nobody would have been skiing. You would have come up and you would have looked at a brown hill and you would have been like, well, that's disappointing. Maybe we should treat the planet better so that we could have snow in March like when we were children. And that show would have been canceled or would have gone on a much smaller scale. You would have had to refund all the people who didn't get to go skiing and didn't want to go to the show because now they're pouty. And it would have been we would have done the show for fewer people. So thanks to COVID, boy, that was a long way to go for that. Thanks to COVID, the upside, we now reach a greater number of people to hopefully bring in even more donations for a service that is actually needed now more than ever. And so thanks, COVID, for doing that. And you know what? It's unfortunate that we did have technical difficulties. I don't know if I've mentioned that. But because the show was meant to start at 7, and what I had wanted to do when I came on was to start with the applause that a lot of nations have been doing around 7 p.m., where people go outside and stand on their tiny little porches or lean out their windows or open their little cubbies and give a round of applause for all the healthcare workers, all the nurses, all the doctors, all the hospital staff, and the caregivers and the EMTs, all the frontline people who are going in and doing the important work. And again, you know, the extended front line, as I would consider, includes the shelter workers at shelters like My Friend's House, but also those shelters that serve the underhoused folks and the safe injection sites. These are all people that are regularly, you know, just going out there and doing what has to be done every single day. Not everyone has the luxury to obsess about restocking their toilet paper like I do. Some people actually have to get out of the house and just use whatever they've got at home and then just do the hard work. And of course now we're discovering, as we keep, you know, restricting how much we do day to day, what the new definition of what essential work really is. Right? Because now, you know, that is including the people who work at the drugstore, the cashier folks, and the people who work at the grocery store, you know, checking out our bags, and the employees at Canadian Tire for those, you know, like hardware type things. And oh my God, like if there was ever an upside, I have never had more luck finding a salesperson at Canadian Tire than I have since COVID. 5 minutes? How have I got 5 minutes left for this segment? I can't believe. I was so worried that I wouldn't even be able to get that far. I've barely gotten through the first page of my comedy that I've actually put on a little, I've got to keep looking off over here. It's because I was so panicked about doing comedy without an audience. I had no idea that I would be able to do it so well. So I don't, and that's, I'm just judging it for myself. I actually have no idea. I decided that that it was worth the cause to make myself so uncomfortable. I was hoping that my discomfort for your pleasure was worth it if we could raise some money for My Friend's House. Yeah, so yeah, I was saying that like I can't even believe that you can get service now when you go into Canadian Tire. There's often more employees than there are customers. Like, when does that even happen? I feel like I wish I actually needed something besides toilet paper or cleaning supplies that I could ask them for, only to get this answer. I don't know where that is. I don't know what department. Really? You don't know? Because there's actually all you can do right now is get a lay of the land. Like, you could spend all your time learning where everything is for when the pandemic is over. Anyway, I'm now judging my own riffs. I'm like, that's not everyone's going to work. But it is true that this is an unusual circumstance, and we're actually going to take a break. I'm going to wrap it up because Julie's going to come back and make an appeal for money. She's going to break up the show. She's going to be like, we know you really want to get back to the comedy, but first we have to raise some money. So this is really, oh my God, it's exactly as I had envisioned it to be. So I'm going to come back and continue on. But I do want to point out, because I haven't gotten to it yet, but I was going to, just how weird this experience is for a comedian. Just it is the very nature of this art form. It is an art, Mummy. Is that it relies on on an audience. It's not just the laughs. It's not so self-serving, but it's, you know, it helps me gauge timing. And taste is also a factor. Those little nuances is a reason why you can't, texting, it's the same thing. You can't read someone's intention in a text. It's the same. I can't do comedy without context. So you can ask any comedian anywhere in the world, and they will tell you that it doesn't matter how much of an audience is going wild for you, like the clap breaks and everything that a comic lives for is, you know, the crowd just laughing, seeing people double over. Every comic will tell you that in an audience packed with people who are loving you, the only person the comedian will notice is the one guy sitting off to the side, arms crossed, not into it. I'll tell you right now, I would give anything for that one guy right now, just to have an audience. All right, so we're going to take a break. And then I'm going to come back and do this again. I'm going to have the experience of having done it and then choose voluntarily to do it again. All right, Julie, come on back. Hold on. Let me grab my water. And then I'm going to back out so that we're not crowding the space. Okay, Julie, here's Julie, everybody. Give Julie a hand.
Yay! Oh, I can't even tell you. I'm not really, I can't get close enough to hug. I can't even high five, but it's cracking me up. It's cracking me up trying to watch a comedian that is so good and so well versed crawl out of her own skin while she tries to figure out if this fits or not. But I got to tell you, it does. She's hysterical. Elvira Kurt, thank you so very much for everything. And the reason Elvira's here, and she's talked a little bit about that, is that my friend's house is a women's shelter. It's a women's shelter and crisis center, and it is so much more than just a shelter. We understand that when you reach out, we're there from the beginning until you are healthy and safe. So you need us to help you come up with a safety plan. That's one thing. But if you need us to be with you, well, you get counseling and transitional support and legal support. And absolutely, there is a shelter there to keep you safe. There is all kinds of services that my friend's house has for women dealing with domestic violence. The biggest one that we have a need for now is outreach. Our outreach workers are incredibly busy, as are the crisis lines, because truly right now during COVID-19, all those women are stuck at home, socially isolated with their abusive partners. And for that reason, we need to be on deck more than ever. So yes, it's horrible that the entire world is shut down and there are no events. I mean, it's horrible for so many other things, but as a fundraiser, I'm missing my events. Because the events means that we've got people coming in, we've got awareness coming in, we've got funds coming in. We have a $400,000 budget to make after funding comes in on a regular basis. That's just what we have to bring in. Now that's more. Our need is bigger, and events are not possible. Not in the conventional sense, not until Elvira Kurt came along. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this. The information's always at the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to tell you why it's really important. I'm going to tell you a quick little story that is true, and sadly, it's a common story. It is a story of a woman who had little boys that were starting to get big enough. They were toddlers, young boys, and they were getting big enough that they're noisy. They're children. They play, they fight, they're kids. But Jane couldn't keep them quiet enough to protect them from her husband. Her husband had a temper. And every night, they would know as he walked up the stairs what kind of night that was going to be. And one night, it got really ugly, and they ended up in the hospital. And it was time for the police to recommend that they take Jane and her boys to a shelter. And so Jane came to the shelter, and of course the boys were terrified. This is new and scary, and they'd always had to pretend that everything was okay and make sure that nobody knew what happened at home. And now they're in a position where everybody's asking. The counselors at my friend's house are really good at what they do. Counselors at many women's shelters are good at what they do. And because Jane and her boys were in a shelter now and they are safe, they have the chance to start rebuilding their lives. And counseling's in place, transitional services included, things like how to apply for OW while you get back on your feet because he controlled all your money, how to do budgeting, how to make do on a very small budget while you get back on your feet, cooking instructions, but most importantly, a safe place to live and legal help to make sure that you're kept safe, and counseling to make sure that you get healthy. Those are all the reasons that you give to a shelter. Everything that you donate goes directly to making sure that women are safe and that they learn how to get healthy and move on with their life in a really positive way. And because of amazing, wonderful people in the world that take care of each other, we can do that. And I know that we're going to be able to do that through this event. Like I said, donations were already pouring in. Partly they're pouring in because you expected an event to come live, streaming at 7 o'clock. However, I just checked and they are still pouring in, even though we're going tape to YouTube later. So thank you for that. And I just want to remind you to take care of each other, whether it's the shelter or any other people to people, people to animals. This is a tough time for everybody. So while you're practicing non-judginess, make sure that you're practicing caring as well. Take care of each other. Our information's on the screen. I'm going to move more than 6 feet away so Elvira doesn't panic, because quite frankly, I look like I might be germy. So I'm going to get out of the way. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvira Kurt.
Woohoo! Yay! Give it up for Julie. Oh my God. Did she say she looked Jeremy? That does not inspire confidence. If I'm willing to come out of the house like in a hazmat suit that is crumpled up in the back of my car, and I mean, let me tell you, that is part of what makes it so hard to be outside, is that I feel like the only place that's safe is in my house with my things. That's how far the needle has moved. Do you know what I mean? Like 2 weeks ago, I was okay to shop in the grocery store. I touched everything. I touched everything all the time. All I was doing was touching. I was rubbing things, and inadvertently, it's not like I was doing anything that you wouldn't. It's not like I was humping the grocery cart, but pretty close. I mean, compared to what I've been reduced to now, which is, I just notice every movement, and I worry that everything I'm doing is wrong. Like I'll put on mittens to drive the car, right? But I touched the door handle with my bare hands before I put on the mitten. Like I can't. And then when I leave the car with the mitts, I've touched that door handle, but with a mitten hand that was a bare hand before, and now suddenly I'm walking into the grocery store, which, I've got to wipe the handle on the cart, so I get the wipe from I now have a fanny pack with double holster Lysol wipes, and I'll pull out the cloth and I'll wipe it, but then the inside of the cloth that I've been holding has touched the surface that could be contaminated, but how do I touch it so that I'm not touching any of the it would drive you mad. So in the end, I'm just like, but just push it in with my neck, and then just give that a good riddance. There's me at the grocery store trying to, knock a avocado into my basket with my foot so that I'm not touching anything as I push the cart. Nothing weird about this at all, just getting some produce with my hat, just seeing if I can dislodge a lettuce. We're not worried anymore about the romaine, right? Oh my God, bring on the E. coli. I would give anything for a little bout of E. coli in place of the pandemic. I'm not even washing the lettuce anymore. I'm just just chomping it. Because nothing's worse than the COVID. Oh my gosh, that was just off of Julie saying she was germy. The point is that you got to donate. I know it's difficult. Nobody's working. What are you going to donate? What are you going to donate? What do you want, Julie? What do you want? You want my pancreas? I don't use that for anything. I could donate my pancreas. Just a little flake off, just cut off the tip of my liver. I'll donate that. I got nothing. So I get it. I get that it's hard. So any amount helps. That's what's important. And if certainly for those of you in the greater Collingwood metropolitan area, for those of you that just reach behind the couch and pull out, send it in. There's 3/4 in lint. Perfect. That lint will be used to make a small plaything for a cat in need. And nothing is wasted anymore. The point is that do what you can, and wherever you are, if you can't to my friend's house, then think about it for your own neighborhood. The women's shelters in every city across the country are being hit very hard. As Julie said, the stress and strain of having to be at home under those kind of circumstances where the threat of intimate partner violence is constant would be terrifying. I mean, I'm struggling to, with the absolute luxury and privilege of just being in the house with people I love. It's almost unbearable. And not just for the humans. I had a cat just walk up to me, the other just park itself and look at me like, are you ever leaving? Like just the plain, I've never seen a look on this cat's face. It's almost like, they had this life that they loved before we were home all the time. It made me think, like, what are you guys doing when I'm gone? It's like I suddenly understand why I go in my closet and my pants are rolled up really high, like to the crotch. I think the cat's having friends over, and they're just trying on my clothes. Just go through my closet. So, the cat's done. The dog, of course, the dog could be like, oh my God, is this dog heaven? He looks so pretty. Are you going to take me for a walk? Just, no other? The cat's like, get out. Get out. Hold on. Just changing over. Okay, like I said, that's where I've kept my little, I put my little comedy notes off to the side because a lot of this is just material that has surfaced because of the pandemic. I know every comedian for the last 2 weeks, locked inside, nowhere to perform, is doing the same. It's just a gathering of material and nowhere to put it. So for me, I'm just happy to be in a place where I can just play. It's like a rumpus room. It's none of it's real. I would open that door to let you see what's inside, but I don't want to touch it. Don't want to touch the handle. I could use my Kegels to open it because of that app that I told you about. You had to have watched the whole show for that. It's a callback to earlier in the set. There was before the intermission. Oh my God, talk about setting myself. I would like to do the most impossible thing, and then I would like to do it 2 times back to back. That's what I'd like to do. Before the break, also as Julie was mentioning about my friend's house, the money that's pouring in from from people who are moved to think of the service that is so essential to help women through times of crisis, and then these extenuating circumstances that we're going through right now, extreme extenuating circumstances. I'm going to use all the E words. I'm going to go through the word day calendar. I'm going to use them all. But those workers are, I think it would probably make them feel good knowing that money was coming in to help them do what they do. But as I said, the notion of what an essential worker is changing. We've all talked about how we're all in this together. Like, we are all in this together. Do you know what I mean? It's not like there's an audience that could have come and we just turned them away. Like, the reason there's no one here is because everyone is doing what we were all meant to do, stay at home. And so we're all being hit the same way. And it's funny because I remember in that first week, we started hearing from different types of businesses about how they're being impacted, right? This idea that we're all in this together, and then you start thinking about people outside of, what you know and what's comforting for you. Like for me, my world, I spend a lot of time, not going to a place of work because I'm a comedian. This is my place where I work for 1 hour in the night, hopefully as often as possible. But I do write, and writers can work at home, except for those that now have other people in their lives and are annoyed that their work is being disrupted. So that's an example of someone that his life may not be impacted necessarily the same. I know that in my business, all of the TV productions that I was involved in, like the studio, shut down, everything's shut down. There are TV network executives sitting at home going, oh, there's no one's dreams I can crush today. I have to do it remotely by phone. Oh, this is so difficult. There's no work for them anyway. Oh, So, they're affected. I have a lot of empathy. I can't wait to do that fundraiser. But I heard from, you're hearing from different businesses, and sometimes I'm wondering if that's necessarily a good thing, because we were listening to the news a couple of weeks ago, and the restrictions were being tightened, the closing of the border when that was being proposed and what it would mean. And we heard from farmers. Now I'm a city girl, and so I'd never thought about farmers, but sure enough, farmers being affected by the border crossing, meaning migrant workers would not be able to come and do the orchards that these farmers were worried about their crops being ruined. And I mean, like, that's totally horrible. Of course, people being who we are in the surrounding farming areas, volunteers, locals living nearby, volunteering to come and help the farmers out. And the farmers were like, no, thank you, of course, well-meaning, well-placed, but it's a very specific, way to do it. Like, there's a technique, and these migrant workers are, they are able to do it because they've learned how, and it's such a unique, specialized skill that they have. And I'm like, so you need them to do that. Maybe now we should then stop thinking about migrant workers as unskilled laborers if there's nothing that anyone else can do except for these specific workers. Maybe that is a reframing. Suddenly, this new light of like, oh yeah, I hope that their pay is what I'm getting at. I hope their pay reflects the skill that they're doing, the service, the unique talent. It's on par. And again, I know that farming is it's got to be super difficult. It's just this idea that you think, migrant workers do the work nobody wants to do. Migrant workers do the kind of work that only they can do. So I just hope that with this greater awareness, we can shift the way that we think. In the same way that as it started to become obvious that only the big grocery stores would have to stay open, that somehow Loblaws was able to find a little more income. We were going to give them 15%. Really? You're going to increase their wages? So there was money. Is that where all that bread scandal money went to? Galen somehow is just lying around. Oh, look. Oh, he reaches in his cash. And he's like, oh, I have enough to pay the workers a little bit more. Because, you know, it's not just they're putting themselves right on the line. And, you know, he wants to give them a little bit more money. He's going to boost their incomes and then give them a little plexiglass so that they are able to be separated from the customers with a plexiglass wall, like they're the drummer from Def Leppard. But, you know, the money was there. That's the, you know, Galen's distracted. And we're putting up the plexiglass. I noticed that the money, that you're paying them a little bit better. So maybe, you know, we could rethink this idea that I think the money's there somehow, thanks to the pandemic, we're finding, you know, the money to take care of people. It makes me think that maybe the minimum wage is deliberately low. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I guess we're keeping, how else are we going to keep poor people poor? So I took a big risk there with no audience to gauge that, for you all to, you know, get a sense of where I'm at politically. And, you know, you should have guessed based on how I look. You should have guessed. I'm looking at the monitor now so I can see I am literally the most lesbianic thing outside of Toronto right now in this entire Northern Ontario region that I am. And by the way, I should point out that I have been busy during the pandemic while all of you were fixating on getting all your Purell stocked up. I was busy making a jacket out of Nana's pillow. So there's that. Yeah, I'm feeling super self-conscious that I did that kind of material about the farm workers and the income. I mean it. It's not like I don't mean it. It's just that it's hard to go there. It's a lot easier to be silly. I could have spent 20 minutes talking about why I hate kale. Why would, you know, that's silly. It's easy. Everyone hates kale. Why are we even eating something you need a massage before you can eat? Like, what is the whole point? You can't eat kale from the stem. You gotta work it. You gotta give it a good. You gotta Reiki that. You gotta get in there get the spine all done. I just want to say that you know, I think it's probably because I just caught myself in the monitor, and you know, I clocked how gay I am on appearance alone, but also how thrilled I am to actually be out of my soft pants. I have literally not had to put on clothes for 2 weeks, so I'm in show clothes and not soft pants, and I am grateful for nothing. Another upside of COVID for me. I'm finding all the upsides was that I had a reason to get dressed, to get out of my soft pants. And I Zoomed up here from Toronto. Yes, that's where the Zoom, for those of you that were wondering when I was going to bring Zoom back, I am reclaiming the word Zoom, because up until last week, Zoom was just a word that was in a car commercial. It was something that parents did in the morning to get their kids out of school. That doesn't happen anymore. Now I just walk in every morning and just nudge a child with my foot. Just nudge. You still breathing there? There's nowhere to go. There's no morning Zoom. But now, of course, Zoom, the way I mean it, is in the original sense. That's why I'm reclaiming it. I want it to mean what it is meant to mean, which is to move a sudden, quick movement. Zoom, and not what we know it to be now, which is a crappy teleconferencing app, so that you can stay in touch with your friend circle, which, you know, as we've learned, you know, joining, gathering via social media really isn't about seeing your friends, is it? It's about looking into, because you're always in the inset of whatever app you're visiting with someone. You're also there. Like that I mean, the best part about social interaction is you don't have to see yourself, right? But now, you're just always there. And so all you see, everyone's visiting. Yeah, tell me more about how you're doing. My God. No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I cannot believe that I look like this. I would love to hear about how hard things are for you, but look at my neck! Why are you not seeing this? Oh, I have to go. Click. So, who knows? Maybe there are some people. I mean, I guess that's what the filters are for, is that you can make yourself look good. But that's I stay off of social media mostly until the pandemic, and then suddenly, like I said, Facebook Live. I got my own show coming up on Wednesday, the 1st of April, that I'll be streaming myself if I don't have any technical difficulties. And let me tell you, if I do, I'm not going to mind. 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 I'm saying that to every camera, and I'm wondering if my Kegels can get a Kegel and get a shot. I'm going to use my Kegels to change the camera. Yeah, there we go. That's how butch I am. I just changed that up. But I haven't, and because I feel like it's something that is just for my kids. They're on it all the time. Like, their lives, in terms of the digital content, hasn't changed at all. They don't use any of the social media platforms that anyone of a certain age uses at all. Is there one way to guarantee that you're going to have an adult audience? Put it on Facebook, even YouTube. Because the kids are now on the TikTok. They're just, all they're doing is doing the whoa and the ooh and the. If I look at my 11-year-old who's just walking through the house with these motions, I'm like, is there a tick? Is that something I need to worry about? What's happening? I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to go here. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad I did. Sorry. Here I am. I'm back. Julie, how are we doing? Go? Seriously? Okay. Or wrap it up or talk. Okay. It's just you and I in the studio. It doesn't matter if they can hear you off screen. We're playing to 10s of 11s now. But hopefully everyone who is tuned in has thought to just send a little, whatever spare change they have, along to my friend's house, which is the whole point of us gathering. Like I said, it's an honor to be a part of the night, and it's helping me not touch my face, because that has also been really difficult. Although I know they've really sort of eased up from telling us to touch our faces. Now it's mostly about washing your hands. That first week was all about, like, don't touch your face, which was next to impossible, truly, to not touch. The very act of saying not touch your face makes you want to touch your face. Look where your arms are. Look at these. This is the whole. This is it. If they didn't want me to touch my face, put my arms behind my knees. That would have been great. So it's automatic, but then you have to have the right kind of personality to be able to overcome that. And I'm not that person. I am the don't touch the red button, touch your person. Do you remember? That's another reference for the kids tuned in. Bugs Bunny, the red button. There was the Bugs Bunny episode where there was the red button in the house, and under no circumstances was Bugs supposed to push the red button. And he was all like, okay, push. That's me. That's my exact personality. And that scenario completely happened to me once, looking to live in a new home. And we were told by the real estate person taking us through this home, have a look, but when you get in the bedroom, you'll notice a button on the wall. Whatever you do, don't touch the button. And I'm not going to say that I made a beeline for it, because I do have a little bit of self-control, but as soon as we got in the bedroom, it was irresistible. Like, I didn't even pretend. I was just like, well, there it is, push. And then the entire house started to vibrate. I mean, the Bugs Bunny cartoon, that house shoots in the air, you know, like 500 feet, but because it's a cartoon. But in this, it was the panic button. And then this massive alarm that was so jarring, I could barely focus on trying to find where it was in the house to turn it off before the police showed up in, you know, 12 cruisers. And I'd just be like, you know, it's just me. We did a button. I couldn't help it. So yes, don't, you know, I'm glad that I'm able to get through this entire time that I've been out here, essentially doing Gilda Radner's character when she was the kid jumping around in her room, doing her own show, doing my own show. That's how I feel like I am right now, which is great. You know what? It's proof of concept that I can actually do it because, you know, and Gilda Radner, by the way, add that to the list of references. Gilda Radner, kid character. Judy, is Judy in a room doing the thing? Google that. You do that after I'm done. And it's proof that I can actually do it because that's what I believed that I would be able to pull this off. Solo stand-up comedy in solitude, but there was a part of me that worried that I was going to be like the first episode of The Partridge Family, where they are all set to perform and the curtains part and they're all sitting there like this. And you know, the mom is she's on the organ with her smart little shag haircut. She's like, come on, oh. And then she notices and all the kids are frozen. And then she's like, okay, everyone close your eyes. Pretend we're in the garage. 3, 2, 1, or maybe it's 1, 2, whatever. And then they all start playing. So there was a part of me that thought I was going to freeze, but I didn't. And not only that, I didn't even get through everything that I had written on the little listy list of things to riff on. Because I could have come out and done a solid show, but I thought I'd use the time of Corona to create laugh in the time of Corona. That was where I was. That's where I was going. The last time I did a live show with an audience, it was March 9th. It was for International Women's Day. We were doing 2 shows, and I made jokes to the audience, like, well, it's a good thing we can gather while we can all still gather. Now I'm like a Les Tradamus. I predicted the future where that's not possible. And back then, March 9th, it was a problem that was on the other side of the world. And the worst thing, you know, initially, when it was like Wuhan province has been locked down, I'm like, well, that's kind of awesome. You know, if you're an introvert, who doesn't want that? You mean I can't leave? I can't go anywhere? Okay. Oh, that's awful. Please let that be bad. You know, we were so distant, right? And for me, the worst thing that happened back then, like we're talking 3 weeks ago, was hearing about those cruise ships that couldn't dock anywhere. I'm like, well, yes, who wants to be on a cruise ship? It's like the worst nightmare at the best of times. Like before there was a coronavirus, there's the norovirus. Like it's just notoriously awful. And I have played on cruise ships because I've been hired by a lesbian travel company to perform on these ships, and it's all women, and we're all together. No one's ever worried about our ship turning into a poop cruise where everything breaks down because we're lesbians. You know, if the engine failed, 3 women would be like, "What do you need? I got my bag. I got the kit. I'll fix it." And one would already be diving off the front, put the anchor cord into her. I'll pull the ship into safety. We're on it. We're totally sorted in that regard. So it's always been a great experience to be on a cruise ship, but it's difficult, you know, because they're not kind to the environment. I remember, you know, doing the Inside Passage up the west coast of Canada, the Inside Passage up there along Alaska, and you know, you'd have a park ranger come on to do, you know, a little bit of expose of the nature. We're all standing on deck, and you're like, and there in the distance you can see that glacier is receding, and it's such a shame. We still haven't figured out why. Haven't you? Because I suspect it's this giant polluting machine that we're on here up the, whatever this passage, what is this strait called again, the Tingley Clit? It's, I think it's that we shouldn't probably be going down anymore. Cruise ships, for me, the challenge of being on one is that I, again, given my pushing the red button nature, I have a hard time going to the railing. Do you know what I mean? Not because I'm worried that I'll fall, although that's a real concern. It's more that I'm worried that I jump, you know, just to see what it would be like. It's sort of like a siren call of going to the edge and just looking down and be like, I wonder if I just jumped in, how long it would take for someone to notice. You know, I imagine I'd jump in, I'd have the experience of like, ooh, I didn't touch the bottom, and then I'd bob to the top and like, oh, these are the swells that I imagine from having seen movies and Nemo, what a swell looks like. And but then in the distance, eventually I would see the cruise ship, you know, somebody, you know, waving or making a sound, and then I would see this giant cruise ship turning a U, or the captain's like, we're coming to get you. This is a giant steering thing, and so that's hard for me. And you know, we know, like, not only is it different kinds of viruses on a cruise ship that make it a difficult experience, but also the ships sail in international waters. So in some ways, it's like the perfect crime can be committed on a cruise ship, and it has happened. You know, every once in a while you'll see a cover of a People magazine, and you know, some unhappy person saying, well, my spouse went over. But are they that unhappy? A little smile in the eyes, and you know, they just disappeared. Because I think it would be the perfect way to get rid of someone that you had fallen out of love with, in a way that, you know, is in your mind of a twisted person would be the perfect crime. The problem with planning that, so what I'm saying is, if your relationship is struggling and your person comes home and says, I got us cruise tickets, say no. No, because that, you know, that is a tip-off right there. That's something you may not be coming back. You know what I mean? But the problem is, you have to think it through. If you're the person committing the murder, you've got to be careful about committing a murder on a cruise ship by pushing your person over. Do you know what I mean? Because it can't happen too late in the trip where they already know you as a couple. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to time it right. You can't do it like 5 days into the cruise. You go down for dinner by yourself, and people are like, hey, where's Susan? And oh, Susan's not well. Really? I should go pop by and have a look. Oh, no, she's fine. So you can't do it too late, because then people know you're together. On the other hand, you can't do it too early, you know, and you might be tempted to, because, you know, you want to get it over with, but you got to wait, you know, until the cruise ship has left the port. You can't get on the boat and just be like, oh, the room's amazing, honey, look at the balcony toss. And because, you know, 2 minutes later they'll be pounding on the door soaking wet. What did you do? Look at me, soaking wet. You were in for a trip. Yeah. Again, that's normally it's like a standing ovation type bit, but you know, it's okay. I'll just assume that you're feeling it. And I should probably get going. I know some of you are thinking that I'm looking good, and I know it. I just happened to get my hair cut by coincidence, like a day before the lockdown. So it's actually it's grown in great. So I'm not as worried as some other people. I know I look a little bit like if the Little Prince Le Petit Prince was a lesbian, but I'm okay with it. And what I'm worried more about, so less about the hair, is the waxing, because I'm not sure how that's going to go in another couple of weeks. I mean, it's pretty bad. And I've chosen like a different style. I know Brazilian is very popular. It's just like a clear, just all the way through. For me, I've chosen something a little different. I've invented my own where I keep it, like I clean it up right down the middle, but then I leave it really full down the sides, like it's really bushy. That's my preference, is to have a lot of hair down the side of each leg, kind of like mutton chops. You know what I mean? And like I've invented this new style of just like super hair, nice and clean, right through the middle, but then super bushy. You get what I'm after? So I call it like the fathers of Confederation. I think that's a good place to end. Maybe if I could just turn the camera off with a Kegel. That's it for me, everybody. Don't forget to donate. My Friend's House. This has been, I had the time of my life. And unfortunately, I can't even do that move where I throw myself into the air because no one would catch me. But I do feel your love and support, or do I? Guess I'll have to read the comments to find out. All right, take care, everyone. Good night. Stay safe. Keep away. Julie, in 3 feet.
There's nothing you can do to say anything more than big thank yous to Elvira Kurt. That was incredible. What amazing material that woman has for any situation. But COVID-19 clearly dished her up some great stuff. We're so grateful for her and her incredible talents, and you for being here and making sure that you're taking care of each other and you're looking out for those in the community. And most importantly, we want to thank all those people on the essential services list. If you're not sure who that is, go to the Ontario or Canada-wide essential services list. Look at that list and make sure that your heart is grateful, because those are the people taking care of us right now. Stay home, stay safe, don't touch your face. And thank you to Rogers and 5 Star and Docks on the Bay and My Friend's House and everybody that was so good to us, JYT Media. We couldn't have done it without you. We're so sorry for the technical issues, but when it came out, it was pretty fun. She's fantastic. Elvira Kurt, thank you so much. Take care of each other.
I will believe when none believe you. I'll take you in when none will take you on. I will be strong so you don't have to. This ain't a house, this is your home. I won't say that it seems strange that you can't say when it all changed and something wrong turned into something more. And I won't care what others say about how it got to be this way or why you never came to me before. There's a time to figure out what makes a man. There's a line, and it's drawn deep along the sand. I will believe when none believe you. I'll take you in when none will take you on. I will be strong so you don't have to. This ain't a house, this is your home. This ain't a house, this is your home. Tried to speak but made no noise. Watched other people make your choice. Wondered what life's like when it's your own. This is war, I'll take a side. If there's a door, I'll kick it wide. I'll be here when all the rest are gone. There's a time to figure out what makes a man. There's a line, and it's drawn deep along the sand. I will believe when none believe you. I'll take you in, none will take you This is your home. This ain't a house. This is your home. No more tears, no more fights, no more broken sleepless nights. Leave it all, you can call on me. I will believe when none believe you. I'll take you in when none will take you on. I will be strong. I will be strong. So you don't have to. So you don't have to. This ain't a house. This ain't a house. This is your home. 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 This is your